In my mind, this man is arguably the greatest of all the Old Testament personalities in the context of this presentation. It could be argued that he was greater than Abraham because Abraham lied and used deception to save his own neck. It could be argued that he was greater than Moses because the man I'm going to talk to you about was not raised with the silver spoon in his mouth like Moses was. It could be argued that he was greater than David because this man that I'm talking about never embarrassed God, but David embarrassed God and embarrassed the whole nation of Israel when he fell into adultery. When this man was just a boy, he was given a very rough start in life. In fact, his daddy was a playboy. He was a runaround. He was not discreet about his relationships with women. His mother was a prostitute. And when he was 12 years old, his own brothers kicked him out of the house and put him out on the streets and left him to fend for himself. And the Bible says that vain men joined themselves to this young man. Men of the world, men that were carnal, men that were ungodly, took this young man in. But somewhere, somehow, some way, when he was a child, God got a hold of his heart. And he developed convictions. And he developed principles. And he decided that no matter what happened, he was not going to be offended at God. No matter what God asked of him, no matter what God required of him. You see, it's a loser's mentality that says, you know what, if I could have had the opportunity that so-and-so had, I could really be something. If my daddy was a preacher, or if my mother was a professional teacher, or if my parents could have just made it and not divorced, I could have really been something. Listen, friends, everyone that could not make it because of all of those excuses will have to listen to the testimony of this man on the day of judgment who arose above every obstacle. He will stand and judge them all. You see, I'm the son of a preacher. I'm fourth generation Pentecost. My dad was the greatest Christian that I ever knew. Woe unto me if I do not be something for God. I ought to be because of all the opportunity. But what about those who, like this man? This man was the 13th judge of Israel. He's the man who said, I have opened my mouth unto the Lord, and I cannot go back. His name was Jephthah. When Jephthah became an adult male, he was successful. In fact, he became so successful, his business was such an enterprise, he had to raise up an army to defend his investments. His army was fierce. They were notorious for their exquisite way of battle. And guess what happens? Just like Joseph, his brothers that kicked him out said, Jep, we need you. We're fighting the enemy. We could really use your army. Would you come and help us? And this is what lets me know that Jephthah was not offended. His spirit was right. He was honest and pure before God. He said, yes, I will help you. I will give my resources to help defeat the enemy that has come against you. When you came up to Jephthah and you sniffed, no smoke. He was pure. He was free. And so Jephthah, before the battle, he went and he sought the Lord. And he said, Lord, you have been good to me. You have provided for me. Lord, you have elevated me in the business that I have raised up. And you've given me this warriors. Lord, I will send my warriors to the battle. And if you will give me the victory, when I return from battle, the first thing that greets me at my door, I will give to you. That was the promise. My friends, be careful what you promise to God. The Bible said, vow and pay. Be careful. I'm not saying don't make promises to God. I'm not saying don't make commitments. But whatever you commit to God, make sure that you're willing to take it all the way to the floor. Take it all the way to the mat. Take it all the way to the gates of hell. Whatever you open your mouth unto the Lord. So the Lord gives him the victory. He comes home victorious, and now he remembers his promise. And he's wondering, what is going to meet me at the door? What am I going to have to sacrifice? What am I going to offer? What sacrifice is God going to require of me for this great victory today? He thinks, is it going to be the sheep? Is it going to be a little goat? Will it be the donkey or the horse or the cow? What is it? Will it be a servant of mine that's going to meet me? And he comes around the corner, and suddenly he sees the outlay of his land and his house, and he looks for anything moving, and nothing's moving, and he can't find anything, and he starts walking the path toward the house, and now he begins to get a little nervous. There's no animal, there's no dog, there's no cat, there's no sheep, there's no ram, there's no goat, there's nothing. He looks around, nothing's moving, and all of a sudden the door opens. 1,000 earthquakes could not have shattered his heart anymore than what happened in that moment. His only child, a daughter, the only thing that really he ever loved in his whole life, and the only one that really ever loved him in his whole life, greets him with a smile. She comes running out of the house. Daddy, God was good. He gave you the victory. She runs into his arms and she hugs him. Daddy, you're home safe. Thank God. We prayed for you. And tears began to fall off his face. Oh, baby. Daddy, what's wrong? Oh, baby. I love you, but I wish it would not have been you that greeted me first today. But I have opened my mouth unto the Lord, and I cannot go back. I cannot go back on my word. I cannot go back on my promise. I cannot go back on my commitment. So like Abraham of old, who took his only son Isaac up the mountain, scholars have argued it for years. Did he literally sacrifice the girl? Or did he send her into the mountains to bewail her virginity for the rest of her life? The argument doesn't matter today. All that matters is that he gave her back to God. And as far as we know, he never saw her again. So my question to you today is, have you opened your mouth unto the Lord? You know, when I was a kid, we used to sing an old song in Pentecost. I'm going through. I'm going through. I'll pay the price. Whatever others do, I'll take the way of the Lord's despised few. I've started out with Jesus, and I'm going through. My friends, not everybody that has sung that song is still singing it today. I've not come here to hurt anybody. I've not come here to discourage anybody. I've come here to pull the devil's stinger out. I've come to beat him up. I've come to eliminate the influence that he has had in your mind and your spirit. Some of you that have issues with your parents, you need to get them under the blood today. Some of you that have difficulties and problems with your husband or your